I think I think it's a good place to start in saying that somebody shouldn't be thought of like less than because their names come up so frequently in terms of great performances, and certainly Rob is up there.
And the other thing to bear in mind is he was the defending champion. That's a huge amount of pressure. So, a lot of people, even really talented runners, can't back that up with another win. So to do basically the perfect race with all that pressure, we keep seeing improvements throughout the sport, but Rob still managed to do something that I think really made us all realize just how good he is.
Does anybody have anybody else? So AJW and Ian both with Rob Carrar. Billy?
Well, as it goes on, I may be partial to the people that I ended up filming and or spectating for, but I wrote down a few. I couldn't narrow it down to just one, and certainly Rob's name was on there, but I think of guys like Alex Varner, who ran Lake Sonoma and set the course record there, Quad Dipsy course record. David Laney, third place at UTMB, which was just a phenomenal, I think, tactically one of the best races I've seen play out. Just running very patiently from the start, not getting swept up in the European mad dash of the running of the bulls type start for UTMB. It was really inspiring to watch from virtually following him the entire day. And then of course Zach Bitters, 11:40 at Desert Solstice, breaking his own American world record. 7:01 per mile pace, like basically almost a 3-hour marathon back to back 4 times. I mean, the mental fortitude that it takes to run that blistering pace for that long is just mind blowing to a middle of the pack turtle like myself.
Hey, Billy, I want to jump in there and say that was my nomination too, Zach Bitter, and I went out after he set that record, and I looked at his times, and I was on a road run, and I ran that pace, and I thought, there's no way I could keep this up for any distance, and that includes refueling and any other things that happen on an actual, long distance run that get factored into your final pace time. I was just, start now and keep running and see where you're at, and it's just phenomenal how consistent and fast, and the turnover that he has is amazing.
One thing I say about Zach's run, which was incredible, no doubt about that, breaking his own American record, is that there still have been performances better than that at the same thing. Well, I think course records, obviously you can only compare to the same course, but things like Alex Varner and the amazing runs he did, Rob, etc., I kind of value the competitive element to it as well. So first of all, being the best ever at that race, and with this year, I think that means like Lake Sonoma or Western States, that's the best we've ever seen in trail running, pretty much, ever. But also there's a lot of competition at those races, and being able to not just run fast, but to be able to outwit the other people so that you surge at the right point, you break away at the right point. I think I put a lot of value on that as well for a quality performance. Not to in any way belittle what Zach Bitter did, but a solo run doesn't appeal to me in quite the same way like that.
So that's interesting, and I pitched this out to, no offense to you, Billy or Scott, to Ian and Andy both, about this outwitting the competition. That's an interesting up front, and you guys have run up front. What's the chess match that happens up there? The mental side. Is there some strategic maneuvering that happens mentally on the up front group?
I think always, yeah. I mean, in any competitive race, Western States is a great example. You've got a big group of guys early on. Lake Sonoma, again, big group of guys. Any major trail race these days, or road race, it's when people make their moves. And when they're judging who feels a little bit weaker, who's a bit stronger. Ultimately, in ultras, you still got to do your own race, but that definitely comes into it when you're talking about the very, very best performances.
Andy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Don, from my perspective, and I was a little, my years were a little before Ian, we overlapped a little bit. trying to get in people's heads about being worried about who's behind them. And the chess game actually begins well before the race. But when the race is actually going on, you really do, if you're a competitor, you want to make sure that you're in the right spot at the right time. And at a race like, I mean, it's true for most of the iconic 100-milers, but to just use Western States as an example, you know, Rob made his move between Michigan Bluffs and Forest Hill. That's you know, kind of position one to make a move. It's where Jurek made a move on Delabar and Mackey in 2004. It's where Jeff Rhodes started to creep back. Anton tried to make a move in 2010 there. So, and then you've got the run down to the river, which is, you know, even a more ideal place to do that. But I think Ian's right. The tactical aspect of it and the head game aspect of it is I think underestimated by some people. And if I could just
director of the UC Office of the President. Vanessa led the team that came up with this logo and the visual brand. She says that a lot of the negative reaction was because the media implied that the classic seal was being replaced. But there were no such plans. The seal, which UC has reassured everyone will stay on diplomas, is more of a classic collegiate icon. It's circular with the words Seal of the University of California around the edge, an image of an open book, and the motto, Let There Be Light, at the bottom. An earlier version of the seal dates back to when the university was founded in the 19th century. In its current form, that seal has been unchanged since 1910. So UC Berkeley, my alma mater, has the UC seal on its official communications. It's what's on my diploma. It was on my aunts, my grandparents, and yes, in its earlier form, it was on my great-grandparents' diplomas. I'm the 4th generation in a line of UC Berkeley graduates. But more casual logos do exist, like the Cal script logo that's on the UC Berkeley football helmet and every 10th person sweatshirt in downtown Berkeley, or the C Berkeley logo that's on a baseball cap item. So Cal and UCLA and lots of other universities have this distinctiveness between a more official seal and a more casual logo. But the UC system as a whole did not. The seal, for all the good things that it does, such as that, can't carry all of that symbolic weight. Why not? Because it's already interacting in a sort of rhetorical space that is much more institutional. Like it's too stuffy. You can say that if you want, but is that sort of how you feel about it? Like, is it? I actually think that the seal is fantastic, because when we need to have the weight, the full weight and gravitas of the university behind a budget book or behind a proclamation by the president or whatever that is, that seal gives us that gravitas. But we don't always want that gravitas. That gravitas, it has a place in communication. It's like having a tuxedo and you footwear every single day. In other words, what the team of designers at UC intended to do was to create an icon that could be used as part of a broader campaign to more dynamically and more casually explain the university system to people. Korea explained the logo would never stand on its own as it was depicted in media reports. It would almost always be presented with the words University of California next to it, or the motto, Let There Be Light. It would have all these other visual cues that would help UC sell itself. You talked about, expressing dynamism and light and these sorts of things. Do you feel like that the logo should be able to stand on its own? I mean, I think that, again, for me, I feel like when I look at this and you say, well, it's part of a larger thing, there's text that goes with it, there's other contextual information that would help me to understand what it is. Because when I just see it, this does not scream to me UC. Like I don't, well, today it doesn't, but it will. Okay, so, you need the ecosystem to build the meaning into the object. You need people to begin to identify it with the good works of the university for them to build the meaning. A logo on itself is nothing, it's a thing. A logo doesn't come fully formed with the meaning baked in. The meaning is accrued over time. The Nike swoosh, look at the giant check mark. I mean, if people had social media insight into it today, they would say, why is there only one? Why is it so plain? Why is it like a check? That's supposed to be a wing? I don't get it, I don't see a wing. The meaning has accrued through years of quality products or non-quality products and athletes associating with it and the interaction that you have with the brand writ large. The same thing for Apple, can you imagine? I mean, it's an Apple, it's a computer company, why you have an Apple? It's a grocery store, I don't understand. It's the same kind of thing. The meaning is not baked in. You build the meaning, that's what building the brand is. People's emotional resonance with something develops over time. The only reason why it's raised in so many other UC loans have such a strong bond with the seal is because it's been around for over a century, and that bond is further strengthened by every other seal in the world. They're really not all that distinct. Seals now kind of naturally communicate history and tradition, and indeed, gravitas. Vanessa says she gets all that, and while she herself may have attended another UC, that would be the University of Cincinnati, she thinks that part of why there's been so much negative attention for the logo is because it's become a lightning rod for other issues. I think that there are other things going on here in the outcry. Part of what's going on is that this has become a very simple way to express a lot of other frustrations about the university, and that's received that from a lot of different people. They are frustrated because they feel like the administration is inaccessible. They're frustrated because the tuition is going up. They're frustrated for other things. They're frustrated about the privatization of the university. Rightly so. I'm frustrated too. That's part of the reason why I'm sitting here trying to get people to actually care about it, because I want them to go and vote for it. We don't really describe the purpose of the logo and the uphill climb it ahead of it. I think it's fair to talk about the actual graphic design that a lot of people, both the lay public and several designers, had huge problems with. One common complaint was the fact that the C part of the design wasn't totally solid. It was a gradient. The bottom part of the C was lighter than the top. And while the intention was to convey movement or luminosity, that's not what a lot of people saw in it. The first time I saw the logo, I immediately thought of a computer icon of something loading. I spent a lot of time in front of my computer. Maybe you do too. This C looks exactly like a circle indicating a loading browser tab or Skype opening or any other number of loading scenarios on a computer. Vanessa told me that this was pure coincidence, and she expressed a little bit of regret over it. This particular color combination is one that really pops out that loader bar reference in a way that, again, I mean, very unfortunate. On the UC website where the identity was introduced, you could actually see other versions of the logo with different colors. There were black and white and blue and white versions of the monogram that didn't have a gradient at all. I personally preferred those, but I don't think those were very widely seen. Vanessa also told me that what's gotten drowned out in all the noise of journalists like me wanting to talk to her is the fact that people in the design world do like it. There was an op-ed written in the San Francisco Chronicle by Rob Duncan, formerly of Pentagram. He's now an art director at Apple, and he also runs his own design shop in San Francisco. He called the new UC logo, quote, one of the freshest and most creative education identity schemes in a country full of boring institutional logos. But the much more common and widely publicized response was very, very negative. An online petition called Stop the New UC Logo received over 54,000 signatures. And as we alluded to earlier, on December 14th, just a few days into the extremely vociferous public reaction to the logo, the UC Director of Marketing Communications released a statement saying that the new UC monogram was being shelved. Quote, in the past week, it has become clear that the University of California system-wide monogram recently created is a source for great debate, dialogue, and division. In short, it's too much of a distraction from our broader effort to communicate UC's value and vital contributions to Californians. So we intend to suspend use of the new monogram. We will begin to take steps required to do so. I certainly had an initial negative reaction to the monogram when I first saw it too. I still think the gradient is just not quite right, but overall, after talking to Vanessa, even a skeptic like me is a little bit more convinced of its usefulness and of its quality. You don't have to like design to recognize that it's good design. I don't like red buttons, don't say anything about it. I don't like red buttons, I have no opinion on red buttons. I don't like red buttons, but I understand what they've done and why people think they're good and why they are good and where they fit into rock and roll history. It's fine not to like it. You need to understand what it's trying to do and go from there. I would say I hate the idea of it, but it doesn't matter. It does what it needs to do. And so from that perspective, I would say, I would hope that people think about design in the way that one should be thinking about design, rather than assuming that purely subjective response to one thing that we posted on an internet platform is enough to base an entire judgment on. I talked to my 91-year-old grandfather about the new UC logo too. He graduated from Cal in the 1940s, and he said he didn't like it either, for many of the same reasons that we talked about earlier. That it wasn't clear what it was supposed to represent, that the C in UC looked weird. And when I explained what Vanessa had told me, he chewed on that for a while, but ultimately I think came away unconvinced. For Korea and many designers have spoken out in support of her and her team's efforts. They continue to say that their work was bold, daring, and does represent modern California. Here again is Christopher Simmons. I think the role of an an expert. An expert to me is just someone who is trained in a particular field and has some, perhaps, hopefully deep experience in the practice of that field, is to see the world through a different lens. So, for example, when we have our kitchen renovated here, I don't know anything about architecture, I don't know anything about engineering, I don't know anything about interior design. I have my opinions, but that's all they are. And so, when a designer tells me, well, I think this would work best, I defer to that opinion. When a mechanic tells me that this thing needs to be fixed in my car, I trust that he or she is accurate. When I go to my doctor, they're telling me how to understand my own body, and I don't know how to interpret what's happening in my body, so I allow them to do that for me. When it comes to design, we don't seem culturally to have that same trust. And so, perhaps saying that people are ignorant of design or not knowledgeable of the process or short-sighted is contentious. It's probably, strictly speaking, true, but it's not always wise to say the true thing in exactly the way you're thinking it. We live in a time when everyone feels that their opinion matters. And the reality is that not all opinions are equal. That's not popular, because you like to think that your voice is the same as someone else's, but when it comes to, for example, physics, my voice is not the same as Stephen Hawking's, nor should it be. Aesthetics is a very easy target, because no one understands how aesthetics works, and they feel that subjective opinion is the rule of the day. I don't like it, therefore it must not be good. So, I get that. No one wants to be told how to do their job by rank amateurs who don't understand what they're trying to do. I don't go to restaurants and tell chefs that their pizza could use more basil in the tomato sauce. But the difference between designers like Vanessa and the physics world is that we, the public, are not invited to sit in Stephen Hawking's physics lab in Cambridge. We're not part of that world, period. But design in general, and this design in particular, is about communication and interaction with a public who are completely unaware of the motivations behind a certain design. The logo isn't meant to sit in someone's sketchbook. It's meant to be out there in the world, telling the story of the University of California. And right or wrong, the people connected to the university still feel like they have a say in the matter. It's hard to say what the ultimate effect of this whole fiasco will be. I think institutions like the University of California, which tend to be pretty change-averse anyway, will be more gun-shy about pushing new designs and new ideas forward. There will be a turn effect. If that comes to pass, that will be a real shame. I hope the people who really dislike the logo, at least the thoughtful ones, would also not want to see that happen. I also don't want designers to circle the wagons and claim that no design can be criticized unless the person with an opinion knows the full backstory of the design process. That just seems false and incongruous with reality. I didn't see people making the same defense of the new Gap logo with the little blue square that appeared briefly in 2010. It was derided by everyone, everywhere. Even Christopher Simmons, who has very thoughtfully considered and spoken out against the overreaction to the UC logo, took some swings at the Gap logo back then. Someone made some jerky website where you could turn anything into the Gap logo to kind of emphasize how generic it was. And so, for a while, my Facebook profile was just me on my name with the little blue square in the top right corner. And, in retrospect, that was probably mean, and, I think I take it back. I would. I think it speaks well of his character that Christopher regrets that, but I don't know if he should. He cared, and he commented, fundamentally, because these things matter to him. On one level, it's great that the public is engaged and passionate about design. It's a little dispiriting that every time it happens, it's to recall the UC logo, to recall the Gap logo, to recall the Tropicana packaging, and we don't see the opposite. We don't see people galvanized around, a great new identity that they love. It's very easy to sort of pile on the hate and the criticism and not offer meaningful alternatives. That said, the fact that design is being discussed signals that it's important. That it's important to people, it's important to culture, it's important to business, and that's a win for everyone. 99% Invisible was produced this week by Cerise Farvar with help from Sam Greenspan and me, Roman Mars. It's a project of 91.7, local public radio KALW in San Francisco and the American Institute of Architects in San Francisco. This episode is brought to you in part by Shutterstock.com, where you'll find over 20 million stock photos, vectors, illustrations, and video clips. Start your search at Shutterstock.com to find that perfect image for your website or any other creative project. When you find the images that you like and decide to purchase, use offer code INVISIBLE12 and get 30% off any package. That's Shutterstock.com and use the code INVISIBLE12. Support is also provided by Tiny Letter. Email for people with something to say. My boy Carver always has something to say, and right now he is in love with the band Matt and Kim. TinyLetter.com. It's free, easy, minimal, and powerful. The simplest way to send an email newsletter. From the people behind MailChimp. Christopher Simmons, the principal of mine, who was featured in this episode, was also interviewed by my hero Debbie Millman on a recent episode of her Design Matters podcast. I was also featured last season. You want to check that out. You can find Design Matters in iTunes or at Design Observer. 99% Invisible is distributed by PRX, the Public Radio Exchange, making public radio more public. Find out more at prx.org. You can find the show and like the show on Facebook. I tweet at Roman Mars, but right now you can look at the UC logo and all kinds of links to all the controversy at 99percentinvisible.org. It's a really nice book. The second book is Things That Vote and Things That because it's basically going through things that are in-house and asking kids whether they would sink a photo and urging them to try it, which kind of reminds me of a David Letterman skit that he used to have when he would drop things into a big vat of water and the audience is supposed to guess if they sank a photo. So that book is also very, I think that of all of them, it might have the least amount of text, and I think kids could really easily pick it up and go on their own on that one. And Too Hot, Too Cold is following two human kids and also other animals and how they regulate their temperature in cold, which is something kind of unusual. I haven't seen that in a kid's book. So those are the three children's fiction books. And so moving up the age ladder with middle grade books, here are some of the finalists and my interest in. Well, the middle grade category is always an interesting one because it would range from 5 to 8th grade. So the books look like picture books, but they can run anywhere from 68 pages to 100 pages. And this year we have two nominees from the same series, Scientists in the Field, which is published by Houghton Mifflin, and it's a terrific series because it follows researchers doing actual research. And unlike some series where each book looks the same, they're very different on the inside, and they really have the voice of the authors who immerse themselves in the work of the scientists. So one of them is on wildlife scientists, and that's centered around the researchers in Assateague Park and Chick-a-Filet. Also one called The Book Show, which is Scientists in the Field, and that one is following volcano researchers. I really like the adventure. Yeah, it seems sort of embedded in science, trying to break that stereotype of science being dull and part of school. Yeah, and that's what's great about the series, because it really is in the field. And the other one, Finding a Fossil, with the father and son. The father is a researcher, so he takes his son out with him sometimes to look for things, and the book begins with the son saying, Dad, I found something, and Dad, who authored the book, is sort of like, okay, yeah, nice, that's nice. But then it turns out to be a really, really, really important fossil. And so in the children's hands-on category, what do you think makes a good interactive book? Well, that's very interesting because this category has really been evolving. This year we have a book called Beyond the Solar System, which is unusual because I don't think we've ever had a book with hands-on astronomy activities, but they're great. And the reason that they work is by trying to model for them the scale and some of the ideas that would help them understand how the stars work. So that one is very, very wonderful. There's a bird watching book called Look Up. I think it's really great that this sort of is more of a how-to for them instead of just pages of pictures of birds. And Ellie's Log is actually almost more of a story because it's based on the little girl Ellie and her friend going out and being nature observers and keeping a log. So on the fourth and final category, young adult science, how did these finalists excel at capturing the attention of teen young adult readers? Well, we have a separate panel that looks at the young adult books, and they're high school teachers, science librarians, and public library specialists for teen audiences. So the Mary Roach's book, Gulp, is one of the nominees. I loved it, and I'm hearing it consistently. Yes. Even though it's got a lot of gross things, we would definitely use this book in the class, recommend it to kids. I find that very heartening because I love her, and she looks at. I love it because she sort of makes heroes of some of the unsung heroes of research, a saliva specialist. I mean, people that you don't really think about. Theo Wilson's book that was nominated this year is Letters to a Young Scientist, and that is written.
to bend and go for it, and it usually turns out well. When it doesn't, it's awesome. It's a glorious, but it's gonna be good.
I feel like, as long as you take care of yourself, like you get out there, don't be stupid, don't be redlining and putting your heart rate through the roof or anything like that. You'll be fine. I mean, really, there is a question mark with the postpartum stuff. For me, I can feel totally fine, and I really don't know enough to know, if something can go wrong.
Right.
And actually, my sports med doctor is driving out there just to make sure that I'm going to be safe about it, and so hopefully all will go well. And yeah, I'm a fighter, so I'll fight from the start, and I'll keep on fighting for as long as I can.
This is gonna be awesome.
Boys, I feel like was good proof for myself more than anybody else, but for myself that if I kept fighting, I can keep going and I can actually make a pretty good comeback. So, so with that in mind, I'm gonna run the race my pistol, and whatever that is on that day, then I will enjoy every minute of it either way. So,
do you have a goal or a place in mind?
Well, of course, me, I would love the course record. Go big or go home. Some of those things will need to be adjusted as I, may need to be adjusted as I'm racing. It's kind of a 1, 2, 3 goal. You have the first goal in mind, and I think it's lofty and exciting, because that's what really, pulls you out of, the common place that most people get stuck in, and brings them to a personal best. And that personal best doesn't necessarily mean a time or anything. It means, personally, you found your best. That's the best out of you. And I really want to get the best out of myself. So I have to set some lofty goals, but of course, be realistic and keep in mind some adjustments if I need to.
Awesome. Who's running with you? Do you have a pacer?
Heck no, I don't believe in pacers. Like I said, I'm out there to do it myself, and honestly, if I can't do it myself, then it's just not the same at all. And I want to, I guess, do it myself, and I believe in that, and I know that a lot of people believe in pacers, and they're great, and they're helpful, and they're supportive. I believe in crew, but pacing, actually having somebody running with you, and I don't know. I don't run with the pacer either. I don't like it. I don't run with the pacer either. But it sounds like most people are running with the pacers last year, as compared to last year, where most people didn't run with the pacers, at least for the gentlemen. What are you wearing on your feet, shoe-wise? I don't know yet, actually. I have a couple pairs in mind, but I'm still not affirmative on any of those. I'll probably run a little bit when I get there and kind of decide morning up.
Sounds good. Predictions-wise, I'm going to assume. Well, talk to me. Who do you think is going to be on the podium for the ladies?
Magda and Steph, for sure. Stephanie Howe and Chick-a-Filet. Obviously, two very strong women there, and I feel like they train pretty similar to myself as well, so that's why I pulled them out of the pack. Nikki Kimball will, of course, be strong, and I don't know why people aren't, putting her up there in some of these things.
It's Nikki Kimball. It's Nikki Kimball.
Top 5 in the past 9 years there, still be solid and strong, and then,
det är fenol säkert one guy to have a brilliant day.
Yes.
We finally got Chick-a-Filet closed on Sundays.
Manage both your calorie intake, your sleep, your pace, everything, just to get to the finish line as fast as possible. I think I was intrigued by that, and it was in the same way. I wanted to try, and also to do it in rural Tennessee and learn something totally new, new experience. And I just wanted to do it. And once I got there last year and did it, I was just in love with the people around the race.
that human connection has been built, that's when you can start really forming a community of people. Now, that's where you can really start mobilizing those people and make a big difference in the world. And that's when you start thinking, hopefully, about all the statistics and numbers around your channel, whether it be views or subscribers or whatever. You'll remember that each of these numbers actually represents a real person. Like, we're not just talking about collecting more and more stats and information here and trying to grow some like inanimate numbers stats on the channel. Like, every single one of those numbers represents a person. So if you have 100 subscribers on your channel, that's 100 people who said, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear the content you're going to make. What you are making is valuable to me. That's 100. Now, if you're comparing yourself to a lot of other channels on YouTube, you're like, oh, you have 100 subscribers. I say, dude, you got 100 people who want to hear what you have to say. They want to consume your content. That's a big deal. So instead of just focusing on all the people who aren't on your channel, what would happen on your channel if instead you started focusing on the people who you already had? What if you developed a better relationship with 100 people who already are on your channel, who already are listening to you? And what if you could build a connection with them that would compel them to want to tell other people about you, about your channel, about your content, compel them to share it, compel them to start watching every video you do, and not only watch it, but watch the whole thing, giving you crazy amounts of watch time from your 100 subscribers that then grows your channel even bigger, gets you more exposure and search and related videos and suggested content and all that kind of good stuff, and then grows your channel even further. Like, that's a great way to get that snowball going, is by building that human value with your viewers over time. And so I really want to hear from you guys in the comments about how do you do this on your channel. Is it just by telling your story? Is it by letting people into like some behind the scenes of your personal life through maybe Instagram or Twitter or Facebook instead, where maybe you have a certain channel where it's not as appropriate to tell those types of stories necessarily in the actual content? Maybe you're doing that in other avenues. I want to hear from you guys. Tweet me at Tim Schmoyer. Or if you're a patron at patreon.com/videocreators and you're supporting this type of content and this training, I'm really looking forward to reading your comments on this post for this episode on Patreon. Or you can go to videocreators.com and there's a link in the show notes that goes directly to this post, so you can comment there. And I'm just looking forward to